drafted this decree a long time ago, and it stayed on the Attorney General's desk for such a long time, and he was not signing it. So that's one of the problems. But also, the Supreme Court, the wording of their order was very clear that there was a word immediately. And once a decision of the Supreme Court is given, or any other court, it starts operating immediately. You do not even need to first extract this decree and all these semantics they are in.
And you see, this matter when it came to Parliament, I asked the government people, because the Attorney General told the Parliament that the court-martial has stopped immediately. I asked him, so this court-martial to hold the trials was moved by which decree?
Yeah.
Chris Bayomunsi, you look bad.
No, maybe to you.
Eh? To anyone sensible.
No.
It doesn't have to be limited
so who
to
told
me.
you are sensible?
Eh? I said to anyone
You see
sensible.
the problem for you, Isaac.
You see,
you think you are sensible.
this Chris Bayomunsi,
you say what you want to say.
When he was at Ginger Road here arrested.
Can we deal with the Besigye?
No, I am answering.
Yes.
And I didn't want to go back
by the way to speak. What is your problem?
Because it is very painful to him.
To who?
They were denied him even basic things like sandals, and they told him it is Museveni who has ordered so. That's why immediately after there, you went to see Museveni in Rwakitura. So you were in prison on Museveni's orders. You are now asking, Besigye is not there, we'll say to Museveni.
So how is it related?
It is related.
How?
You see, the refusal to implement the Supreme Court decision is not a decision of cabinet. It's not his decision. It is a decision.
The Supreme Court has not been implemented.
What has been implemented?
I don't know what you are asking.
What decision of the Supreme Court has not been implemented?
You see, once the Supreme Court said, first annulled the sections of the EPDF Act that establish the General Court Martial, and the General Court Martial is no longer there. But that General Court Martial was the one that had remanded the Besigye. So the remand warrant expired.
That's not true.
You don't have to be a lawyer.
No.
The Court Martial is there.
I think
it is there.
I think
so. Besigye is Ruzira on which remand?
This mob action needs to stop. I think that first of all, the opposition people are trying to blackmail the government by whipping public sentiment on a serious legal matter. Guys, let us have one discussion. The Supreme Court rules.
Hold it. Hold it.
The Supreme Court's judgment. The Supreme Court's judgment was that the trial of civilians should not happen in the General Court Martial.
No,
it should happen.
Hold it.
Nullification of the section that establishes the court martial.
Listen,
hold it. We'll pull down.
That was the decision.
We'll pull down the decision.
So you can see he's heckling. This is a problem that we have with them.
Allow one.
You has authorized you to speak. You also have.
He is the one who has authorized me.
Honorable Semuju.
Yes.
Yes. Let's be fair. You jumped in.
No,
you jumped in.
We know, Charles. We know the kind of people we are dealing with.
Andrew, go ahead.
So here is the issue. The Supreme Court's judgment was very clear. It said civilians should not be tried in the court martial. The case should be transferred to the High Court. It did not say that the charges against Besigye are illegitimate or illegal. It's not in the judgment. Therefore, what has to happen now is to transfer the case to the court. It did not say Besigye should be released. It did not imply that Besigye should be released. But let me guys tell you, you see for me, the opposition, as you can clearly see, and Besigye supporters, try to run from the substantive issues of this case and hide behind the emotions. One, if Besigye is in bad health, as a result of what Dr. Baryomunsi has said, him going on hunger strike, if Besigye is trying to commit suicide, it is his right to do so, in my view. He can take his own life. But he cannot use hunger strike to blackmail government to release him. Besigye is arrested in a meeting where he was planning to overthrow the government violently, in which case thousands of Ugandans would have died. Two, in that same meeting,
that's an assumption, Andrew.
Well, at least we all have the audios. And these audios, I told you the last time I was
Audios
here.
supplied by your boss, Moses.
Those audios, I
Yes.
sent them to a friend of mine at Microsoft and 2 other friends at Apple, and they told me two
You
things.
got them as who, Andrew?
Well, as
You got them as who?
any person.
And it's where you have a
so do
problem.
you see?
Hold-
do
hold
you
on, hold
Mwenda,
on.
you got these audios as who?
So
And
do you
you're
realize? Do you
separating them.
realize the
So
trick?
who-
He's
so who
running
is
away.
persecuting Besigye?
But can you stop interrupting so that we can
No,
have a
I'm
debate?
just shocked that
No,
you
no,
say I have the
Honorable
audio. So
Semuju.
If
Mwenda has
we
the
keep
audio
behaving
as
like
who?
this,
Honorable
As
Semuju,
who?
please hold
can't
it.
you first
You'll
listen
have
to
your time to
others
speak.
so that we can have a
Yes,
civilized
let one
debate?
person speak at a time.
Let us have a public debate.
You can only
civilized
have a
debate.
civilized
You see,
debate when you are
it does
debating
not
with
matter
civilized
how I
people.
got them.
So Mwenda, it does.
It does not
It
matter how I
does.
got them. Who told
Honorable
you that?
Semuju, could
You
you
see,
could you kindly respect the show?
But
Allow-
Mr. Mbuju, can you stop
Please,
disrupting? You
hold-
will have your chance to speak.
hold your
Let me
time.
finish
No,
my
I am
point
just
of
asking
view.
a legitimate question. So you have these
Okay.
videos as
Honorable
who?
Semuju, please allow members to
videos-
contribute.
So you can clearly
You'll have
see.
your time to speak.
It does not matter. You see, this is the issue I
And
told them.
conclude your thought.
You see,
in the case,
the abuse,
in the case,
first
the
First
abuse,
allow.
the
this guy-
abuse of the state
But Charles,
authority.
can't you
Mwenda.
control this
One
person?
day you are in a government chopper, you are in a military uniform, they are picking children from the
Today
street
he was,
that they are
sitting
putting
on
on a
behalf of
beret,
the
and you
UPDF.
don't see any problem with that, and
So-
then you want
so-
to civilize
Honorable
the debate.
Semuju, I am going to ask that.
Okay, so Besigye
please
was
allow-
planning to murder Museveni.
You are in a government chopper. So
was
where are you
Besigye-
going to murder in a government
Let
chopper?
me ask you this.
Are you a soldier?
Is Museveni,
Honorable Semuju, please hold
was
it.
Besigye in that meeting where he was planning to murder
Andrew,
Museveni in
Andrew,
cold
Andrew,
blood?
let me
No,
put
guys,
some
because
questions to
these
you.
people of the opposition are trying to whip up sentiment.
Hold it,
let
Andrew.
me make the point. Besigye was in a meeting planning to kill Museveni in cold blood. Did he subject Museveni to due process? In fact, I think
Andrew,
Museveni
Andrew,
is a very humane person. Why?
can I-
Because Museveni could have kidnapped or abducted him from Nairobi, killed him from there, and would never have been seen. If it was me trying to kill me, I have no.
Andrew.
Without following due process, why should I follow
Andrew,
due process?
Andrew, hold it.
Hold a
Hold it,
second,
hold
because
it,
he
hold
wants
it.
a shouting match.
No, no,
We
no.
can have a shouting
No,
match.
we can't, Mwenda.
Yes, we can. We can.
I
So
have
you
a
want
problem with that.
you want your man to kill Museveni,
You
and Museveni should sit as
you
a
have
leader.
been abusing your authority, Mwenda. You are in a chopper.
So-
you are in military uniform.
So
and then
what-
Museveni
what is
kidnaps
that-
children from
how
street
is that
and they are
related-
charged in
how
courts
is
of
that
law
related
that
to
they are
Besigye's
putting on a
case?
beret.
How is that
We are talking
related to
about
Besigye's case?
abuse of authority.
In
That's what we are talking
in every
about.
case you come, you are always involved in the petty arguments like you are attacking him that he was arrested, Mwenda you were kidnapped. That's all that you do.
I am talking
Your
about
lack of
you.
intellectual quality
I am-
is not my
I
problem.
am talking about
What you need
you
to do,
in a
maybe
government
go back to
chopper,
school or to
in
your
a
mother
gov-
and
in a
be
government
educated.
uniform.
Be educated how to be
You
a
are
part
part
of
of those who are
coming
abusing
here and
authority.
whipping up sentiment
Gentlemen,
and sounding
Honorable
stupid doesn't
Semuju.
make anything.
Honorable
You get it,
Semuju.
So where did you get-
you
where
have
did
come
you
and
get
turned
it?
this debate into a shouting match.
That's
You
what
want a
you
shouting
want.
match?
Please,
Then we can have
go
it.
ahead, no
Okay, and
problem.
I'm very good at
Nobody has
it.
stopped
So
you.
I am going
So
to
you
tell
can
you,
shout.
a man Besigye was plotting to murder Museveni. Was he using due process in that process?
Andrew, can I-
was he subjecting Museveni to a court when he discusses that he wants to shoot down his shop?
Andrew, can I ask-
Museveni is a human being. Museveni has, if I were in Museveni's shoes, I would not even have that man alive.
Okay.
Because he does not believe in due process. There is a process of removing a government. He does not respect it.
So
there
which-
is a process
which
of
process
trying
did Museveni follow to remove a government? Which process did
it
he
doesn't
follow?
matter. Museveni succeeded.
does.
Treason is only treason
So
when you
which
don't
process
succeed.
did Museveni
Should
follow
you
when he
not,
was removing a government
Besigye
here?
did not succeed. Besigye did not succeed.
Okay.
Therefore, he's subject to the law which he has violated. Museveni's
gentlemen,
greatness is that he
gentlemen,
succeeded. Besigye has failed. Here is the
gentlemen,
point. Listen,
hold
you're
it,
not going
Andrew.
to give this man
Andrew,
whatever
hold
try
it.
to run roughshod
Yes.
of everybody.
No, hold it.
We shall, why are
Can
you?
I- can
why
I run
are
the
you
show?
and Besigye not discussing the substantive case of what Besigye was plotting? Why are you saying, how did you get this evidence? Does it matter? Assuming I killed somebody and you stole the evidence or you bought it,
Andrew,
does it matter how you got the evidence?
Andrew,
the evidence is that the man was involved in a meeting to unleash violence on this country and kill the president of the country.
Can we put-
he was plotting cold-blooded murder.
Can we put some questions
listen,
to you,
there is
Andrew?
no
Hold
way
it a moment.
Besigye can claim that somehow his rights have been violated when he was planning to violate the
Okay,
rights of others.
thank you. You've made your argument. Andrew, can we put some questions to you?
Yes.
Under the presumption of innocence, all the arguments you've just made are supposed to be proved in a court of law.
Yes.
That process hasn't happened yet.
It is under
So you're making, you are making conclusions.
That process.
Hold a moment. You're making conclusions on a matter that is before court, accusing Besigye of the many things you're accusing him of, without proof.
I have proof of audios of Besigye plotting murder.
Law, you're not a court of law.
Exactly. But okay.
That's why we are
Why
saying.
are there prisons and why is there remand?
Listen.
Why is there? I want to ask you a question and you answer it. Every time somebody commits murder, They are remanded in court. I mean, they are remanded by court and they are taken to jail.
And right now there's no...
Does that mean that the presumption of innocence is taken away? But for me, even that is irrelevant because these people are being political. For me, the question is, when Besigye was plotting to kill Museveni, what due process was he getting?
Can I correct you? When Besigye was allegedly...
You think Museveni is not a human being?
Allegedly plotting to kill Museveni.
I cannot say allegedly.
Someone is suspected of having committed murder.
I have a confirmation of Besigye's voice. I am not the court can follow its own process. I'm not here to argue as a judge. I'm here to argue as a person who got evidence of Besigye's voice in a meeting planning to kill Museveni in cold blood. You cannot say that's a very simple thing.
Let me ask
and let me tell you just 1 second. I think Museveni, you trust me, I will be killed in defense of you on this issue. I think you're a very nice human man. Because a man who was planning to kill you, you abduct him from Nairobi and bring him before competent courts. What would Idi Amin have done, or any other person for that matter? Did the Americans take Bin Laden to a court of law? Besigye was planning terrorism. So he could even have been killed in that meeting. So for him to begin playing this stance of not eating in a prison and you coming and making noise and defending a cold-blooded murderer, a person who was planning cold-blooded murder, I find it very demeaning and disgusting.
Let's listen, if you could, yes, Ofono Pondo, and then we'll bring in Council Arias Lukwago.
Well, I hope we shall have a calmer debate after that. But as you can,
I am so happy I have shut them down because
as you
Please, actually you haven't.
Yes, but you are defending a man who was trying to kill somebody.
We are telling you to follow due
process.
We are saying there should be due process.
Whatever they have said, there are no arguments. You can only talk of rantings by Mwenda if they are a reflection of the mind of the state, and indeed that's the situation. Then the country is gone to the dogs when their state. Actually, those rantings, which are a reflection of the mindset of the state, they make Amin and Obote look like saints. If Mwenda can speak like that on camera, and then the kind of demeanor he has exuded, the outrageous allegations he's making, and the chest thumping, the anger, the whatever you can talk about on camera, what happens behind the scenes there? If indeed Mwenda, like now I can confirm is a state operative, if Mwenda got hold of Dr. Besigye right now, we can strangle him dead. That he wanted to kill Museveni. He's accusing him of murder. Do you know how many people Museveni killed when he was in Luwero? Do you know how many people have died under Museveni's hands? Do you know that Besigye lost his brother at the hands of General Kaguta Museveni? Musasizi, he died at the hands of General Kaguta Museveni. Do you know the people who have died at the hands of Mamenero, how he died at the hands of your good friend, the late Mayomba, and many others? Do you know how Kaira was killed and many others? And Mwenda is here say, oh, Besigye, it's abhorrible. It's his word. He committed a heinous crime. Oh boy, he doesn't even deserve any trial, any hearing, fair trial, fair hearing. Oh, Mwenda, please, do you own this country? He's speaking as if actually the state is Museveni, the state is Muhozi, the state is Kaguta family, and nothing else. Mwenda, does this country belong to you? Does this country belong to the Kaguta family? So you think there is no constitution in this country? Even if, yes, as you allege that Besigye wanted to kill Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, don't we have a law in place? Don't we have the constitution? Isn't it Mr. Museveni who wrote the current constitution? Doesn't it talk about fair trial? Does it provide anywhere for a situation where one can be deprived of their liberty illegally? That they can be detained without trial? You have a Supreme Court decision which clearly quashed all the proceedings before the General Court Martial. And you know there are no charges pending against Dr. Kizza Besigye. If indeed he committed the murder as you are alleging, which charge has been preferred against and in which court? Even in the General Court Martial, where Dr. Besigye was dragged shortly after his abduction from Nairobi on 16th November, he was never charged with attempted murder against General Kaguta Museveni. He was never. Nowhere has he been charged with any charge of murder, attempted murder, or anything of the kind. Now here Mwenda is on camera making such outrageous allegations against Dr. Kizza Besigye. Shame upon you. Shame upon you.
Hold a moment. Andrew.
So why
hold it for a moment. Hold it for a moment. There is an argument that has been made that you lawyers for Dr. Besigye are skirting around the main issue, which are the issues that Andrew was talking about. Instead of allowing the due process of the law to go ahead, you are picking on other issues outside of the allegations that he faces. That by that process, you've delayed Kizza Besigye's justice for the last 3 months.
That argument, I don't even need to respond. It's neither here nor there. Because how have we delayed the due process? If anything, actually, for us, we have always demanded that Dr. Besigye be subjected to the due process. Tell me, since the 31st of January, when the Supreme Court came out with that landmark decision, who stopped the DPP from preferring charges against the Dr. Kizza Besigye? Why wasn't he taken to the civilian courts and charged with it? They will have a whole division of the High Court, ICD, International Crimes Division. Who stopped them from doing so? If indeed he committed the offenses in Kenya, where he was abducted from, who stopped those elements in Kenya? Those elements who crossed from here to go to Kenya, or even if they were security operatives in Kenya, who stopped them from arraigning Dr. Besigye in the courts of law in Kenya? Was it Lukwago? Was it any other lawyer for Dr. Besigye who stopped them from arraigning Dr. Besigye with whatever charges they had against him in the courts of law in Kenya, as the laws of Kenya provide? Isn't it a crime in Kenya to hold a gun illegally? Isn't it a crime to plot to kill somebody in Kenya? Wouldn't it be proper for them to charge him in Kenya and deport him? Or extradite him? Don't we have extradition laws? Please.
Thank you.
Let me tell you this.
Those questions have been thrown back to us here.
When Obote wanted to keep people without trial, to detain them without trial, he enacted the law. He came up with the legislation of Parliament, the Detention Without Trial Act. Why don't you, Mwenda, advise Museveni to also come up with similar legislation if he wants to have any cover of the law? The aggressive Ingiras were detained under that law, the Detention Without Trial Act. The Balachichirias, the who. So tell me, if you are talking about the due process, he was talking about extraction of a decree. Do you want me to lecture you on constitutional matters?
Please give us.
Please, a declaration on matters of just let me say this, Charles.
Go ahead.
Let me complete this.
Go ahead.
When you have constitutional declarations, they are self-executing. You don't need a decree to have anything declared by the Constitutional Court or the Supreme Court on constitutional matters to be implemented, that you need a decree. They are self-executing. You mean on the 31st day of January, when the declarations were made, until the decree was extracted and signed on Monday this week, the General Court Martial remained in existence validly, legally? Why did it have to close shop before even the decree was extracted? You mean the constitutional provisions in the UPDF Act remained valid until the decree is executed? That is section 117. That subjected the civilians to martial law. That was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. You mean it is still valid until the decree is extracted? If you don't know anything, please don't expose your ignorance.
Let's bring the discussion back into studio.
He thinks that he's the one who's clever.
Andrew, you have had a lot of time.
No, I was in a shouting match with somebody.
Yes.
Not make my point. I really want to make my points that came
No. And that takes away time. The shouting match takes away time. So
yes, and you are the one who allowed it. If you don't want me to speak now, I don't mind going back home. I don't want to be
Andrew,
here if I
please.
cannot express my opinions. I came here to speak. You are unable to control him, so I want to make the points that I had on my phone that I wanted to make.
I was
What
unable to
was
control
happening the
him
other
and
time-
you, both
yes,
of you,
I was
so-
trying to shut him down because he was shutting me down, and you were unable to shut him down. So we entered a shouting match where my points were not raised. during
And we're
the
still losing
discussion.
more time.
Yes. So
Yes,
can
we're
I
still losing more
please
time.
make my point that brought me here?
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Let me come to
Be
Lukwago.
mindful of the time of others.
Yes, I am
Contribute.
not a lawyer. That does not mean I cannot understand the law or I cannot consult lawyers. It is not true that the Supreme Court annulled the sections of the court martial, annulled the sections of the court martial that try whatever. It simply
Annulled
said,
sections of the UPDF Act that set up the court martial.
yes, but what the Supreme Court did, it did not annul the trial or the charges against Besigye. It simply said Besigye should be tried, or for that matter, civilians should be tried in a civil court. So what is supposed to happen is to transfer Besigye from the court martial to the High Court. In other words, the ruling of the Supreme Court was very clear. It accepted the legitimacy of the charges, but said that the court martial is a subordinate court of civilian courts. That is one. The second thing that Lukwago does not understand is that Besigye was charged with treachery. What does treachery imply? If he had gone ahead and committed murder, he would have been charged with murder. He was charged with treachery because he was in a foreign country planning to come under the government here and kill a head of state. So that charge of treachery involves his plan to murder Museveni in cold blood. And we have audios actually of Besigye in this meeting. Me, where I challenge the Rubongweyas and other Semujus and Besigye sympathizers, all of them have refused to discuss the substantive issues. They're always discussing he's on hunger strike. They're always discussing he's being... I want us, beyond the technicalities of the law, what are the substantive charges that have been brought against this man in a court of law, which we can discuss in the court of public opinion today? Are they saying that Besigye was not in Nairobi? He did not attend that meeting, and in that meeting he did not discuss a violent armed insurrection against the state. 2, part of that plot to kill Museveni. We will play the audios. They will be subjected to tests. But these are accusations. You cannot say that simply because you are presumed to be innocent, it means the charges in a court of public opinion are dismissed. The courts will what do they call it? Proclaim themselves on this issue. But we can discuss it now. Besigye does not respect the existing laws of Uganda. He has stated it in a series of interviews in Monitor, in Weekly Observer, on radio stations, that only a violent struggle can bring down this government. 2, in that meeting, he's discussing the killing Museveni. For me, I want to discuss it from a moral point of view. If I was Museveni, this dangerous dictator they're talking about, a man was planning to kill me in Nairobi. And Lukwago there is busy saying Kajira was killed, Museveni one was in Luwero, he was killing people with Besigye, they were together in the same bed. I see Winnie tweeting something and saying I'm being protected by Museveni does not protect me. But what I can say, Winnie Byanyuma, when Museveni was committing those murders, she's saying, when the Kajira was being killed, she was with Museveni, she was in bed with Museveni, both literally and metaphorically. Am I lying? Winnie Byanyuma. What right does she have to say that I'm being protected by Museveni when she was with Museveni, when so many people are political prisoners here, and in the worst years of NRM, she was the one defending this system. This system today is much more civilized. Its legal processes have improved and improved over the years. So I think that Museveni today is has a more civilized government than in 1986 when she was in bed with him. So another thing we need to address is Besigye has never applied for bail. Why? Besigye has never denied these audio tapes. Besigye supporters have never come to say Besigye was not involved.
Besigye didn't take plea in the court martial. He didn't.
But Besigye has access. He has access to many people.
Yes,
when he goes and visits him.
The court took the plea on his behalf.
Whenever people go visit him, let Besigye tell us. Even when he's in the court, he can speak to anybody and say these audios are circulating are false. Let him state so, and we hear.
Shouldn't he wait for the court process before he makes that?
No, but what I'm saying,
Yes,
if they are fake, why does he wait for? Because you have 2 trials going on. There is a trial of public opinion, and there is a trial in a court of law. So there is a court of law and a court of public opinion.
Yes.
In the court of public opinion, I want to hear those Besigye supporters, like this David Lewis Ruvongoya and Ibrahim Samujunganda, let them tell us that these audios are fake.
Thank you. I'll go back to David
I'm
Lewis.
also going to
Yes.
protest.
You-
Actually, I didn't come
No,
here.
you two gentlemen started the shouting match.
I'll go back and sleep.
Hold a moment. Let's hear from David Lewis Kubongoya, then we'll come to you.
Well, what I can say first of all is that it is extremely shameful to hear Andrew Mwenda speak the way he's speaking, and really reflects the abuse of the law, the disregard of the law. He's speaking as if he's a constitution. He's speaking as if, you know, because this country has laws, and we want to follow those laws. And I want to associate myself with the words which lawyer Elias Lukwago said, the Lord Mayor, that if they wanted, if they say, and you know, we are not in a court of law here, Andrew Mwenda, all of us are saying that if the state claims there are cases, there are offenses, legitimate offenses against Dr. Kizza Besigye, follow the law. First of all, there is a presumption of innocence. There should have been a proper procedure of returning him from Kenya to Uganda through the extradition process. You could have easily charged him before the civilian courts, and he himself said that he was okay being charged before civilian courts. What he was opposed to, and the Supreme Court agreed with,
What he is opposed to.
what he was opposed to, and the Supreme Court agreed with, is that he did not have any business in the military court. He did not have any business in the military court, and you know, the Supreme Court made it clear that he had no business there. But these people are refusing. And I heard him say that, you know, I think it is Walio Musi was saying that General Museveni is not the one holding him. But General Museveni has made his views clear. I even saw him the other day saying that, you know, they are going to use every means possible to restore the General Court Martial and ensure that it tries civilians.
President Museveni wrote his views in a letter that
but
he
he even
circulated.
spoke out.
No, hold it a moment. And he challenged and said, why not wait for the process, the thing that Andrew is asking for? Why not allow or call for a speedy trial?
Because, and you see why he is very, very wrong in that. He was saying in his writing, for example, that Dr. Kizza Besigye should have asked for a quick trial. But we have NUP supporters who have been stuck before this General Court Martial for 4 years, not being tried. Instead, regime operatives have been approaching them to tell them to plead guilty to crimes they did not commit. So when General Museveni says that he should demand for a quick trial before, first of all, an illegal court, but also we know how that court has been operating, which the Supreme Court now said is a disciplinary committee of sorts. It does not try people. It has not been, you know, it just persecutes people. People are taken there, and then what follows is regime operatives coming to tell our people to swear amnesty papers, to confirm that they committed offenses they did not commit, and all that kind of thing. So what Andrew Mwenda is saying is completely ridiculous. Dr. Kizza Besigye is entitled to a fair trial. What the Supreme Court said was that the General Court Martial was not a competent court to try civilians. What should have happened, therefore, is that all these civilians who are being tried by that court should have been set free, and if the state, in particular if the DPP, after their investigations by the CID, the DPP could have easily sanctioned those files. The DPP, I mean, the Supreme Court cannot amend the Constitution.
Mr. Bongoya, you're arguing a process. And
Yeah.
Andrew posed the question and said, if you were President Museveni, you receive intelligence that somebody is plotting to assassinate you, how would you respond?
But what we need to know is that Dr. Kizza
You're
Besigye,
arguing the legal process
No, no,
as it should be,
yes,
but the accusations against Dr. Besigye
but what I want to say is that this is not the first time. This is not.
Hold it a moment. Affect an individual called Yoweri Museveni, who happens to be the president of the country.
Let me remind you
Yes.
that in 2018, General Museveni claimed that our President, Honorable Kyagulanyi, was gathered with some people and threw stones at his vehicle, and the case collapsed. Let me remind you that the state assembled guns and put them there and told people that these guns were found in his in Honorable Kyagulanyi's room, and the case collapsed there. Let me remind you that before then, Dr. Kizza Besigye was charged with rape. The state operatives were all over the place saying that they had a lot of evidence pinning Dr. Kizza Besigye in the rape charge. Why did it end? The same state, you remember, brought treason charges against Dr. Besigye. Where did it end? So it does not matter for us. What we are saying is follow the law. Everybody who's watching us knows how this state operates. What we are saying, let the due process be followed. There are laws in this country, and we are saying that once the Supreme Court said that the General Court Martial is not a competent court, what should have followed there and then is to immediately release all civilians who are under illegal detention.
Please don't make your opinion, David.
I am
interpreting.
Andrew, please, we agreed
because
that
we are talking about the
person speak at a
Constitution. We are
time.
talking about the
But you see,
Constitution.
Charles,
And I'm saying,
if he is aggrieved on how government is behaving, he can go to a constitutional court and seek a declaration of whether, when the Supreme Court said that these people should be transferred to the civil courts, should they be first released? That can only be interpreted by a court of law.
And I'm trying to explain to you.
Are the final authority.
Andrew, aren't we running around the same contradictions? Kabaziguruka went to the Constitutional Court. It gave a decision. That decision was appealed in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave a decision, and that's what we're arguing.
And my question is, can the DPP, for example, sanction a file from the court martial? Who conducted those investigations? The Constitution is clear, and what we are saying is that the Supreme, not even the Supreme Court of this country, can amend the Constitution.
Yes.
So what we are saying is that the charges, if they are competent charges, there must be there has to be a complainant.
So the Supreme Court wrong to say transfer this to.
And when the Supreme Court says transfer, it is simply telling you now let these matters be handled by the civilian courts. And when they say that, it means that the process has to start afresh.
That's your opinion.
The process has to start afresh in the sense that there has to be a complainant, and the complainant, there has to be investigations. The DPP has to peruse these files and sanction them if the DPP feels that there are charges. And I was just drawing an inference as I conclude. I'm looking at the NUP supporters who are still stuck at Chitalia now. There are no offenses. These have not been tried whatsoever. No evidence has been brought to pin them for 4 good years.
Thank you. You've made your point. You made your point. Let me have Semuju come in, and then I'll come to you.
We shall listen in
I hope you remember that I'm also around.
Yes.
You can go,
Please. Go ahead.
You see, and I am happy with this show. I didn't know that Besigye was facing a mob until today, when I have seen the mob in its own skin. Mwenda's friend, the main supervisor of the court martial, the CDF, every day he sends a tweet, "We are going to kill you." I identified the tree. And to Museveni, that is a quick trial, which Besigye is refusing. The trial, as you have seen Mwenda clearly say, Besigye is a murderer. His friend, I don't know whether the chairman of his party, he has not once, he has said, "I have identified the tree. We are going to hang Besigye on Heroes Day. I have now brought the day forward." This is the guy who supervised the General Court Martial. And when Besigye and everybody else complained against the court martial, Museveni in his letter said Besigye should be asking for a quick trial, which he wanted to give him under the General Court Martial. If we have evidence, like Mwenda has claimed here, like Museveni and his family claim, why are they fearing to present that evidence in the courts of law? When the Supreme Court made a judgment, Charles, that that judgment annulling, actually nullifying the sections in the UPDF Act that established the General Court Martial, and the General Court Martial was no longer there. I have asked every single government lawyer to tell me under which regime was Besigye still be, under which regime did they continue holding Besigye in the, because this thing happened under me. I told you here the story the first day we were discussing, that people were taken to Ruzira and they said the remand warrant will find you there. Because what stops this government that has all of this evidence in video, in film, on paper? What stopped them the following, the judgment was on Friday. What stopped them the following Monday to go to the appropriate court as ordered by the Supreme Court to take the charges and evidence and then get Besigye and formally charge him? What stopped them? Now instead, Museveni has called the NRM MPs tomorrow to go and change the UPDF Act to re-establish the court martial. Why do they want to charge people in the court martial? And the reason is very simple, because in the court martial there is no trial. You can go and ask Aaron Kizza what happened to him. The court martial complained against him, sentenced him, sent him to Luzira, beat him. That's what they wanted to do to Besigye. In fact, I think Kenya must have been the one that stopped them from killing Besigye in Kenya. Maybe the intention was to kill him. Because if you have evidence, really, for this huge evidence of Andrew Mwenda, present it to court. Mwenda, you're not a judge. Muhoozi is not a judge. Present this evidence before courts of law and get Besigye to be convicted. Because you have presented Besigye to every single court in Uganda. To the Supreme, to the High Court many times for rape, for treason, for misprision of treason, for everything. And once you're a government that keeps lying, even when you have something substantial, people will not believe you because you have been lying every day. You said you have evidence Besigye had raped a girl. You went through a whole trial. And court came to the same conclusion like Besigye's lawyers that you are dismissing today, that this matter could only have been cooked in the State House. That was the conclusion of court. What stops that same State House from cooking another evidence? Because if you are there, you have evidence, you are dying because you have present this evidence before a competent court. You don't go and try Besigye yourself and convict him and then announce when you will kill him. The point that the Honorable Baryomusu was talking about earlier, and I want to visit it, that all these matters is about Museveni, which Andrew has proved. I went to Masaka when the Honorable Segiri and Alan were arrested. They were accused of being behind the Bijambia in Masaka. Court released them, and Museveni said they cannot go home for the next 2 years until Segiri died.
Where and when did Museveni say that?
He said he did.
Where?
Publicly.
When? Where? When? How?
Do you doubt that? If
No, I'm asking you to present
evidence. He said
evidence.
it in the State House. Like in the matter of Honorable Akamba, he said actually I'm the one who ordered.
No, I'm asking.
You have asked
when
when I
and
said
where?
in the State House.
Yes.
That's when he said it. And he kept them in prison for 2 years, Segirinya and Alan. And that's how Segirinya's left, deteriorated, and he came back and died. We hold Museveni responsible for the...
People who don't go to prison don't die?
Yeah, but there are those that you have killed. So when you kill them, we hold you responsible for
Thank you,
killing.
Honorable Semuji. Let me have the minister.
So they allowed me. I came with these 2 points. I need to make these 2 points because the first point is that once the decision of the Supreme Court was made, this government that has evidence should have gone to court to present the evidence and get Besigye charged before a competent court. That they didn't do. The same decision they took on stopping court martial from going ahead with trial because the Constitutional Court had said so. There is no lawyer who prompted them to go and stop the general court martial.
The second point? The
second point is that you are dealing with liars who have taken Besigye to court more than 100 times. Besigye has been the most imprisoned human being on earth. They have never convicted him of any offense. Even as I speak to you, he was in court, Buganda Road,
yes,
being charged with inciting violence. I don't know how many times Besigye has been charged with inciting violence. I mean, why do I believe you today? If you have been a liar, every day you lie.
Thank you. You made your point. Let me have the minister and then I'll come to Ofono Pondo.
You see, our friends are the ones who talk of rule of law. And the question sometimes we have posed is, yes, Dr. Kizza Besigye is a high-profile political leader. If he is suspected of committing a crime,
Previously faced charges, individual, each of them have faced criminal charges. For the Honorable Baryomunsi, in the case of Nebanda, that he had stolen body parts. For Andrew Mwenda, with Charles Onyangovo, for allegedly publishing false news. And Ofono Pondo, murder. The thread in all those 3 cases, those people craved for fair trial, fair hearing. And it's the reason Mwenda went even to the Supreme Court with Onyangobo
you're being challenged.
His right to publish
Arias
what
Lukwago, you're being challenged.
news.
You're being challenged. You're being
And
challenged.
the Supreme Court,
Hold a moment.
the Supreme Court
Honorable Arias Lukwago, one from me is
Yes.
that you refer to these three gentlemen as regime apologists. I don't know what they should say in return as a description for other people they disagree with. But number two, hold it a moment. Hold it a moment. Number two, Ofono Pondo is challenging you to state the case file number where he was charged or the decision of the court regarding what you allege was a charge of murder.
And in my case also, which charges were against me?
Well, it's on record. He has ever been accused of shooting somebody dead.
No.
That is a fact he cannot dispute.
Oh, accused it.
Whether there was
I
a
am saying
trial
for
or
the
not
case.
is a different matter.
What number?
Yes.
But the point is,
He's asking
They
what is
had
the
the
file
right to
case
be
number.
heard. Whether he appeared before police and explained himself, he was heard. For the case of Honorable Barrio Musi, he was also heard. And for Andrew Mwenda, I've told you, he went a notch higher to seek for a Supreme Court declaration that publication of what Mr. Museveni or any other leader considers to be lies is a right. And indeed, it's on record that you have a right to publish what the state considers to be lies. What precludes Dr. Besigye from getting the same treatment that whatever accusations they have against him, he should have a right to be heard in a court of competent record, not a kangaroo court which was disbanded by the Supreme Court. So why hasn't he been arraigned before a court of competent record, a court of judicature? Tell me, who has stopped the state from doing so? That is number one. Two, the Constitution does not give them that latitude to drag their feet and do it at their own pace, that they are doing the mechanical transfer of files from point A to point B. The 48-hour rule. Go to Article 23. You have only 48 hours. Oh, you had only 48 hours following the decision of the Supreme Court to do whatever you needed to do to have any transfer done. Short of that, you are abrogating the Constitution. Three, any attempt you are doing right now at tinkering with the law to resuscitate the defunct General Court Martial must be done cautiously, well knowing that there is a principle made by the Supreme Court: civilians cannot be subjected to martial law. That is the reason they annulled Section 117. So there cannot be any reincarnation of that provision in any shape or form. Whatever, you are going back tomorrow. You are going into the caucus. Money is going to change hands like it happened with the Tojukwata, with the age limit, with the term limits. I know they are going to be oiled. But it is not possible under the provisions of Article 92 for you to enact any legislation that has the effect of defeating the letter and spirit of the Supreme Court decision. That is not going to happen, because the principle is very clear: don't subject civilians to martial law. Finally, you cannot arrest people and purport that you are keeping them, that argument you were talking about, which is fallacious, that by ordering or directing that files either to pending before the General Court Martial be transferred to the civilian courts, that by extension the remand warrants were extended. That is a pedestrian argument which can only be made by amateurs like those three gentlemen, or people who are taking a maiden voyage in legal interpretation. The General Court Martial was quashed. The proceedings rather were quashed. And the court said, the Supreme Court said, all proceedings, all prosecutions must cease forthwith. That is the wording of the Supreme Court decision. They must cease. If you wanted to continue with any kind of prosecution, you cannot circumvent the provisions of Article 120. The general, like Lewis Rubongo observed, the general, yes, the DPP has no powers to sanction general court files.
Council Arias
The
Lukwago,
DPP can only sanction charges prepared or preferred by the police. Right now, there is no police file against the Dr. Besigye. At least to our knowledge, there is nothing.
Yes.
There is no way now you can keep Dr. Besigye incarcerated without any charges in the courts of competent, jurisdiction.
Mr. Arias Lukwago, what did the Supreme Court mean when it said seize all trials, transfer those files? What is the meaning of that?
No. They said transfer charges or any complaint you have to the civilian courts. You see, they didn't say mechanically take a truck to match in the general court martial, load all those files onto the truck and you pass via the DPP office and take them to the, I think that's the retro interpretation they want to give, take them to the civilian court. No. They said, please assemble, if you have any complaint against them, like Mr. Museveni is claiming through Mwenda that Besigye wanted to kill him, let him go to police, record a statement. Like you go to CID, let me advise you. Let Museveni go to CID, record the statement that Besigye wanted to kill him, then the file is assembled. But by the way, he cannot start that process here. He can only go to Kenya and start the process from there to extradite Besigye formally and bring him here. Because you can't even do it here when there was just illegal rendition. So, the transfer they talked about, please don't interpret it literally. They are saying if you have accusations against them, lay them properly before a competent court of record, not just to get the manual file, the one of Freeman Mugabe. That one was quashed. You can't get the one of Freeman Mugabe and take it to the civilian court. But if you are talking about investigative files, ESO, CMI, you don't have investigative files which you cannot take to the DPP. Read the Article 120 of the Constitution. But the only point I want to conclude with, General Museveni and his son, they have said they want to kill Dr. Besigye.